Today I'm going to answer a very important question. Should you buy a hitbox or should you make one? This is a question that I'm asked very often, whether it's at events or whether it's in the comment sections of my videos or my live streams. Recently, I've been competing on my Revision 7 hitbox, which I won in a giveaway right before EVO 2019. However, about a year earlier, I had built a fully custom all-button controller with the traditional hitbox layout with the knowledge that I am about to give you in this video. So today I'm going to quickly run through what it would cost to build a custom all-button controller with similar functionality to a modern hitbox, as well as go over how much it would cost to add additional features to your custom build. So without further delay, let's get started. Hitbox's official controller is natively compatible with the PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, with PC connectivity being handled directly via X input. It features 12 buttons on the surface, with all but one of those buttons being 24mm. The last one is 30mm. Wrap all of this up in a very nice steel enclosure with a plexiglass panel for artwork and a removable cable, and you got yourself a very nice controller for $199.99. With all that laid out, I'm going to design a hypothetical arcade stick build that shares all of the same functionality as the hitbox, but with our own components. Here's what we're going to keep the same between our build and the official hitbox build. Both builds will feature a fully steel encased enclosure. Both will have the same size and number of buttons. Both controllers will have a plexiglass panel for artwork. They'll both have a removable cable. And lastly, they will work on the exact same platform. So they will both work on the PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC. Our build is going to use the All-Fight 6 14-inch steel enclosure, which comes in two parts: a body and a top panel with our all button layout. We'll toss in the matching plexiglass, which brings us to roughly $140 on our enclosure expenses alone. The next things for us to focus on are the buttons. As mentioned, for the surface of the arcade stick, we are going to need 11 24mm buttons and one 30mm, but we are also going to need 4 additional 24mm buttons for the start, select, home, and touchpad functions on the original hitbox. Since the All-Fight 6 enclosure that we're using actually has 2 extra slots for buttons as well as 2 extra slots for ports, we are going to actually purchase a couple of covers to cover up those extra holes. More on this later. Altogether, this will set you back about $40 for the buttons. Up next, platform support. The team at Hitbox uses modified Brook PCBs for their builds, so for our custom build, we're going to use the Brook PS4 Plus board, which has support for all the systems that the original Hitbox also supports. The board by itself costs $65. Then there are the wires, cables, and ports. We're talking about everything from the wires being used for the buttons to the USB A to B cable that we'll use as our removable cable for this build. This USB cable will be removable via a Nutric port, which we will install into the front of the controller. All of these will cost us about $48. So overall, our final custom build costs $293.75. And that's excluding tax and shipping. This is an almost $95 difference compared to the cost of getting an official hitbox. However, that's not where we're going to stop. I said before that there are easy ways to add additional functionality to this build, and there are. For example, if we were to swap out the Brook PS4 Plus board with Brook's Universal Fighting board, we not only be able to support the PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC, but we would also gain native support for the Xbox One, the Xbox 360, the PS3, the PlayStation Classic, the Wii, the Wii U, and even the Neo Geo Mini. Brook had a lot of free time on their hands. The latter 5 platforms that I mentioned were added to the UFB support list via downloadable firmware. So the expectation is that further down the road, Brook will add support for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X to the Brook Universal board in the future. And all we'll have to do is just download the update to our controller for free. This massive upgrade does add $30 to our price tag. However, I stand by the quality of Brook's Universal Fighting board. I use it for literally every single custom arcade stick build that I do. And believe me when I say this, the convenience that the UFB will offer you is worth so much in the long run. Now, remember those button covers that we mentioned earlier? just by removing 2 of those covers and putting in 24mm buttons, you can add additional functionality to your controller for things like L3 and R3 buttons, D-pad, left joystick and right joystick switches, etc. It's a nice little bonus for about $5. It makes going through some things in training mode a little bit easier. Alright, so this instead leaves us with a build that costs around $333.20, which is still a lot, so here are a few ways that you can reduce that price tag a bit. My first recommendation would be to switch to a lighter enclosure. There are a bunch of different options out there. There are some acrylic enclosures out there like the Bread and Butter Fight Stick or the Buttercade Butter Bomber. There are also the snack boxes made by the folks at Junk Food Customs, which are made of a durable HDPE material. Any of these options will reduce the cost of your build by at least $20. Of course, there's always the option of making the enclosure out of random box-shaped objects that you can just find lying about in your home. I've seen dozens of sticks that were made out of random shoe boxes, old arcade sticks, jewelry boxes, the whole 9 yards. If they can do it, so can you. Doing this can eliminate the entire enclosure expenses that we mentioned at the beginning of this video, which can actually bring down the cost of the entire build to be under the cost of an official hitbox. There are tons of other ways to reduce the cost of this build. If you guys have any ideas, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. I would love to see what you guys come up with. So, should you buy a hitbox or make your own? If you're fairly creative, want to play across a wide selection of consoles, and are willing to put in the time, you can create a perfectly solid, universal, all-button controller that is well under the price of an official hitbox. But if you tend to only play on the PS4, Switch, or PC, or you just want a convenient solution, then getting an official hitbox is probably the way to go. Those are just my thoughts, but what do you guys think? Will you be building an all-button controller of your own, or will you just buy a hitbox? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're down there, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this was a question asked by you guys, so if you have any more questions that you want to ask, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or just come and ask me live on Twitch. I stream fairly regularly at twitch.tv/ShaolinPretzels, so feel free to swing by. I am always down to answer arcade stick modding questions. If you want to support these videos any further, for the cost of 1 soft pretzel, you can become a member of our Buy Me a Coffee page and get featured on every discussion video that we do. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is ShaolinPretzels, and as always, stay salty.